we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our esteemed viewers across the globe. My name is Patience, your moderator for today, and I'm thrilled to welcome you all to the maiden edition of our talk show, 3,600 Seconds with Industry Leaders. Today, we are celebrating the International Day of Education for the year 2025, and our theme is AI and Education, Human Agency in an Automated World. I'm not alone. In this studio, I'm joined by two amazing ladies co-hosting with me, one from Lesotho and the other from Nigeria. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, Victory, and welcome, Marcia Bata.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, so together, we'll be exploring the intersections of AI and education with our special guests, Professor Jacob Nyambe, who is the Executive Dean of the Faculty of Commerce, Management and Law at the University of Namibia. He is also the chair of National Commission on Research, Science and Technology. Professor Nyambe, you're welcome to the show. So before we dive into our conversation proper, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the significance of the International Day of Education. This day serves as a reminder of the importance of education in shaping our individual and collective futures. As we explore the theme of AI and education, we will be discussing ways in which technology is transforming the education sector and the implications of these changes for human agency. With that, let's get started. Professor Nyambe, we are really excited to hear your thoughts, your insights on this critical topic today. Please share with us on the intersection of AI and education. You have our full attention, sir. Professor Nyambe, please, you can go ahead.
Is it me now?
Yes, please, sir. You can go on. You have the question now.
The reception is very poor.
Oh, so sorry. Yes, the technical.
I can hardly hear.
Oh, I understand, sir.
Okay, let me just start, but the reception is not good at all. Thank you for the opportunity. Allow me just to share a bit on the theme that we have, which is AI and education, human agency in an automated world. I prepared this lecture, I think, for anyone that is quite familiar with AI, but not because of the technical issues. I myself come from a different field. So we are the consumers of AI, not the creators of it. So as the moderator has mentioned, I am in the education sector. And as I said, we are the consumers of AI, so benefit a lot from that. For this lecture, let me begin by simply highlighting again what AI is. Unfortunately, I'm not able to project, but just to share with you, these are computer systems expected to perform the tasks that requires human intelligence. Being in that manner, you don't divorce computers from human beings. Okay, who is that applicable to the education sector? It should be considered in line with what we call education 5.0. That is where the world is moving around currently. And education 5.0 requires institutes of higher learning to focus on the academic, the teaching, the research, and the product development. Because institutions have departed from the traditional mandate in which they were focusing on teaching and research. They are expected to develop knowledge products, intangible products, in order for them to sustain themselves financially or to fund part of their core business. This issue of teaching and learning requires, again, the involvement of artificial intelligence. It's expected that AI should transform or make some areas manageable within a short space of time and offering efficiency in terms of in the education sector. Element that forms the basis for participation with regards to AI. Rationalizing or revolutionizing modern education, not traditional. In this context, the expectation is that revolutionizing should embrace the aspect of meaning about delivery as opposed to just thinking. In this context, should make a difference in terms of delivery of teaching and learning. AI algorithms and educational robots have inaugurated classrooms. And how such has happened in the time of COVID, that when it emerged, most of them were not prepared to offer lectures through virtual platforms. But it ended up that even the students at universities, students who were not very much conversant with devices that they are using, they had to learn very quickly. Okay, under Education 5.0, we expect that the education sector should be empowered enough not only to deliver again from the classroom point of view, but to be able to produce power that can drive those computers behind. It's expected that those who will be the teachers from the basic level to higher education should be skilled enough to be able to handle AI gadgets in the classroom, outside the classroom, so the entire interface of human and AI should not be disrupted to the current modern learning. AI is expected to eliminate barriers that have in the past affected education to their remotest areas. Then the second one, from what the two elements that forms the basis for participation, of which one, this one was revolutionizing modern education, the one I spoke. The second one is human egalitarian, which is the human agency aspect. There's a universal principle of the right to education that is kept the human aspect. Okay? Even from those who attend basic education to those who are at tertiary institutions, they all have the right to education. The expectation there is that whatever tools are in place that should assist them to facilitate their learning, such tools should be brought into place. They mustn't be denied the right to access education, but the right alone is sufficient. It requires to be supported with the necessary tools, including AI devices going forward. It's unlike in the olden times. So these areas, one that have to do with the human egalitarian agency, one of them is the basic education to secondary level, which I touched on already. And then there's the part that has to do with training education. Training education is where you find people who are employed, requires to be retrained, to be reskilled. Those who take what is called the refresher courses, take short courses to strengthen their skills, to refresh their minds, to learn new things. That's where they benefit. And then we have the teaching and learning. That's those who are going for basic degrees and postgraduate qualifications. So these areas, they all need to benefit AI. If one would just think that the expectation is to empower those who are in the primary and secondary schools, as well as those who are at universities, unfortunately, it's a wrong perception. AI has to assist even those who need to be reskilled, who need the refresher training. For instance, nowadays, if one wants to be trained from a university such as University of Colorado in the US, you can be wherever you are, attend your virtual classes, you will participate in some discussion groups and so forth. You haven't met those people physically. And what causes that? It's the knowledge that has gone into AI as well. Because beyond AI is an understanding, I'm talking about beyond the word AI, is an understanding of the human element behind it. So it's to link with each other. But there's the deeper part of AI that has to do with generative AI. We'll touch on that very soon. So as I indicated on training, I said most of us who already have the qualifications, we want to benefit as well from extra training or lifelong learning and so forth. How such can come into place requires the modern way of doing things in order for us to be effective, because we are surrounded by computers. We use computers in almost everything that we do now. Let's move on. So the human interaction in AI, the issue that we should understand here is that as I said, computers require human mind behind. Africa, for instance, finds itself in a very unfortunate situation because of a number of constraints that countries face. I'll touch on those as we go on. But what does AI bring, even for those who are in Africa, who seem to find it very difficult to incorporate these systems into what is currently the education platform? What happens is that you want a child who is coming from a rural area to be tutored. How do you tutor a child who does not have electricity? Because AI requires power. AI requires some infrastructure. You want access to internet. In other words, broadband. That Africa is in an unfortunate situation. But not to say that Africa is not growing or empowering itself. But I'm simply saying there are areas of underdevelopment across Africa. So AI an attempt, or it makes it becomes an interface between theory and practice. At universities, we teach mainly theory. How do you marry theory and practice? You would now want want to bring in the essence of AI so that what you teach in the classroom nowadays, you could simulate the real life situation in which you want an employee to observe what happens in the real world. Excuse me. In order to simulate, you need that AI. But what does AI do? The aspect that I said, I'll have to look at it at a later stage. What does it do? What is AI in terms of our time? Excuse me. You don't want to express AI as or to define it as simply an issue of having a tablet before you, an iPad, and so forth, because these are simply gadgets. But in this context, we speak about AI as the knowledge behind these systems. These systems should be, these gadget systems behind them, which could generate knowledge. They should have, instead of them just being used to aid our thinking and so forth. We want these gadgets to have those systems behind them so that once we load data in them, not the load under the conventional computers, but you want a system that if you feed it with data, it could create a real life situation or a scenario that a human mind could even be surprised about. That's why you see the chat GPT. Okay, nowadays, if I want to, which is a challenge as well with students in universities, if you tell them that they must go and prepare an assignment over a particular topic, what comes out is that they will go on a computer and instruct it, because that's the aspect of AI. They will instruct it to generate this assignment. And it will generate, if you don't have the ways or means to associate with what could be coming from a student, to detect what comes from a computer, you end up giving them distinctions. So you can see the effect of AI is at work. Unfortunately, it brings some kind of challenges, which I touch on as we go on. Challenges in fear. AI, in reality, should be embraced and not feared. It's supposed to be an aid to improving our own situations. As I spoke about the human drive behind it, that requires a knowledge type of economy. Meaning we should have manpower behind, manpower in various fields, not necessarily in the areas of engineering. Various fields, you name it, from accounting, law, from economics, from business, from medicine, pharmacy, all of them are needed to empower these computers that saves us with artificial intelligence. Computers on their own. Okay, let's proceed. Efficiency is an aspect that we all have to. And that is exactly why AI is needed. The delivery of output should be done at a timely manner. If it hasn't started to deliver, they will do it efficiently. We will look at the constraints again with such. Okay, AI will shape new areas of study, including opportunities for future educational labor concentration. In other words, it will influence the areas in which human beings will be studying going forward. It won't be humans who will sit and say, okay, I must study archives, I must study history. It will be about the areas that can be dealt with by AI and by humans for purposes of going into areas that will be more critical, that requires humans to be trained in order to drive these computers. because some areas will be managed by computers themselves. So in other words, AI will influence the future labor concentrations. AI will surely be disruptive and substitute labor. That is the concern now. I'm going to the concerns with AI. Labor itself will be threatened until we look at such from a different. We are not prepared. Labor opportunity jobs will be threatened, but there are certain considerations. Before I dwell more into such, let me first cover one part that is with teaching a little more. As I said, that teaching can be done remotely. Artificial intelligence, how part is what I want to look at. I touched on a child in who at the moment requires a teacher to tutor them, to carry them through some teachings. When they come back home, they want someone who can assist them. These children are stayed with grandmothers, grandfathers, who may not have gone far with schooling. But if you have a gadget that benefits from AI, it's a matter of instructing, if this child knows, instructing that gadget to lecture the child, and it will do that efficiently and effectively. That is where AI now begins to be very practical. It becomes that interface I spoke about between theory and practice. So you can see that teachers could easily be replaced by such systems. You may just require those who operate them. The rest of the teaching is done by the computer. You could even ask questions. Computers will give you the answers. That's the work of AI. If you want to know something even beyond such, it will still give you feedback. If you want to know possible questions, it will even, for the exam, it will still give you such. Must be done by computers themselves. As we have seen nowadays, we all mark, or we don't even mark some of these papers that students work on. We traditionally used to, but currently we simply load questions. They are marked by the computers. We simply get the automatically generated in your Excel sheet. You take such, you submit, you sign, you submit to the head of the department. It's the same thing at an early level where you can replace teachers with computers that are intelligence to simulate situations, to allow them to take tests on those computers and receive the results. They can also get the answers at the same time. Okay? Material development. Excuse me. One of the teaching and learning. In the past, to come and develop materials created by institutions. In future, where it's already happening, you could instruct a computer to develop for you material, to give you material for a particular lesson. And it does it, it provides you. It could even draw from certain authors elsewhere in the world. You have that. It's a matter of just printing that or saving that for yourself. You go to the classroom. But if ourselves, we are also to be replaced by computers. So the material development as well as the aspect of teaching itself, if all such to be replaced, about how threatening AI is. But it's not in reality threatening. It's because the human dimension should also progress to a level where the role of us should be more into an instructive mode to these systems, not systems to be waiting for us. We have to be at the back. The systems now that must be pushed to the front to do the work while we stand behind are the ones who should be the generators of knowledge. We load them with that knowledge. They do what they do. So we should that they are there to help us to improve our delivery capacities, especially in the education sector. I touched on ChatGPT and others. when I said that if you want to search for anything, you can get it on your phone, you do what you want. And these are not even restricted systems nowadays. But for an impact to be felt, these systems have to be very popular in terms of their use. Not that they should be rolled to almost every school, to almost every society that can benefit from them. Then we will feel the impact. I know I might be behind time, but let me rush very quickly. So the key issues that will lead me now into my concluding with them. I spoke about Africa as being challenged. How is it challenged? In order to power AI, okay, meaning in order to from AI, countries are expected to invest in these systems. Then there's need for infrastructure. I spoke about Wi-Fi, I spoke about broadband access, internet, and so forth. As such, it will be difficult for a country of that kind to benefit. We also have to understand that there are policies behind. There must be policies developed to facilitate the work of AI in countries. Because you don't want AI to operate. You don't have frameworks in place. There is need for frameworks for the education sector and all other sectors. Robotics, for example, that is more known in the manufacturing areas. When you come to, or in the scientific, the normal sector, you want now to see generating knowledge instead of simply robots that are seen to be assembling vehicles. It's a different fear. It's an intellectual side of things. You want robots to simulate knowledge, to be able to respond to questions, to be able to work out certain formulas, provide outputs that you need, which can benefit society. In order to do that, you need that infrastructure I'm talking about. You need advanced computers, fast computers, not the olden times. Okay. Then you have, I spoke about the skilled manpower. You need who or to train from scratch or to produce manpower that will be compatible with the systems that are coming. Okay. The reskilling element, I spoke about it, to those who are already in the systems currently, or those who are in place, humans are there, who need to be capacitated to work. But there's a challenge that has to do with confidentiality of data, because you load these into the AI system. Do you know where it ends up? Who controls these computers? Because if the human knowledge behind that has now to be shared through AI with others who didn't contribute to it, then there must be someone who receives information behind, who controls this. So whatever you do, it's known that if you want to go into real life situations where you have to load information in these systems, you have to understand about the owner of that knowledge behind. The confidential aspect will have to be thought about. If countries want to go into that strongly, need to think about the ownership aspect. What about other potential risks of failure? Because AI can fail, as I spoke earlier, that the power systems behind them could be electricity and so forth. What about if even the entire network system? What about upgrading of these systems? If you don't have the manpower to upgrade them, you don't have the manpower to maintain them, to service them in other ways, you will have systems sometimes that don't work. What about the budget? National budget, because countries have to budget for AI. You have to budget on how you roll out these systems. So if you are a country that cannot budget for such, then you are going to face tough time. What about the conflict in terms of the relationship between a teacher and AI? Okay, because the fighting ground here is the learner, the student. So you bring AI into place. How do you foresee the relationship between the teacher and the student? Because AI now takes prominence. What will be the role of teachers? All these are issues that we need to think about going forward. Okay? Because that relationship is what makes our current generation to understand what education is. The moment you take away the teacher, and then you say AI versus the student versus the learner, okay, then it means that the teacher has no role. That's why I said we need to reskill, we need to retrain, we need to produce teachers who will stand behind computers. If we can do that, we will continue to provide teachers, lecturers, professors who will manage these systems without difficulties. And countries will then benefit. So in short, that is where I'll end on my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof, for the presentation. It was very insightful. I mean, I think we gained so much from this presentation. So I'd like to give the audience the chance to ask some questions. If they do have questions, then they can do that. In the meantime, over to you, Miss Patience. Okay. It seems Miss Patience cannot hear me. Can you hear me, Professor? Can anyone hear me?
I couldn't hear.
Oh,
I think our
can you hear me?
I hear you now, but the line is not very clear.
I can hear you. Oh, my microphone was muted. So please, you can go on.
Okay.
I can hear you very well. My microphone was muted so that Prof can have all the quality time needed.
All right, no problem. Can you hear me, Prof?
Very well, very well. Initially,
I didn't hear the question. I see
Prof cannot hear me.
someone also is complaining about the sound system, I think.
very well.
It will be the connection. Connection is not very. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a question here in regard to AI devices on the egalitarian aspect. You mentioned that the children in the rural areas, they are limited to such gadgets, to the Wi-Fi and to the power. So this means they become they're going to have shortage of these resources, and this makes them to be limited in terms of education, unlike the children in the affluent class who can afford this. So how then do we create balance between the two in terms of education, that they should still access the same kind of education? Ms. Ability, do you hear me?
Maybe you can repeat your question. Possibly. Just
Okay.
I didn't get you. You can repeat your questions, please. Prof, I hope, anyways, just part of what we have to bear here in Africa, the rest of the world should also bear with us. We are definitely going to clear this part. very soon in the future, in the nearest future. Okay, so in the meantime, please, Marcel, you can repeat your questions for Prof. And to the viewers, if you have questions for Prof, please kindly use the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patience. The question is, how do we balance education between the affluent children and those in the rural areas who cannot access AI? You know, how do we create that educational balance between these two?
Just breaking, I cannot even get the question very well. It's breaking. Is it possible to type the questions so that I may read and answer them? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I'm typing the question. I can hear you.
Okay. Once I see a question, I'll answer it.
All right.
I think that's a good idea. We're having the question typed since we keep battling this internet issues, this network glitch time to time. So for our dear audience, please, as it's question time. You can ask questions because after now is possible. We are gradually trying to round up. We wouldn't want to take much of your time. So if you have a question to ask Prof, please, this is the right time for you. Use the chat section and send your questions.
Okay. I see a question somewhere here that says, okay, maybe let me attempt this one. Sorry, I was trying to get another device that maybe it will help. How to create the balance between children from disadvantaged backgrounds and those affluent families in terms of education in AI? Okay, I think that's the only question there. So, okay. That how can educators ensure that students retain critical human skills, creativity, empathy, and ethical reasoning? All right. Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you clearly.
Thank you. Let me start with the first one on the balance. You see, this is the role of governments. Let's mute the other device.
this is the role of government. That's the aspect of policy.
That's the aspect of policy, I suppose,
where
it should be noted that governments have a big role to play with regard to how its nation benefits. It's the same matter that I said. Someone lives in the then they are not able to have electricity, they don't have Wi-Fi. That I said, you need the government, you need planning, you need education is a service. Then that service is provided for you usually by, I think countries like Rwanda, we have seen that the argument has been that there are no private schools. All schools are owned by the government. So government provides the needed financial resources to capacitate the school, be it a minister's child and someone who is not affording very well child, they should end up in the school. So by so doing, I'm not saying we should abolish private schools, but I'm simply saying governments capacitate schools, government schools with libraries and so forth. That's what I'm referring to. Must capacitate those schools with Wi-Fi systems, with broadband systems. There must be electricity. There must be those gadgets in the remotest areas. Because nowadays you see some, they use solar systems to power those schools. The purpose of assisting those who are coming from the heavens to also benefit from artificial intelligence. So I think that one will bridge the divide. It will definitely close that gap. The second question is how it has ensure that students retain critical human skills and creative empathy and ethical reasoning. It's also a very good question. That is, you want the human aspect to all these things. Because we're social beings. You don't want to be taught by computers. You don't want just to be taught by robots. So it levels as well. At a high level, someone who is mature, someone who is investing, there would be a problem to deal with a computer. You may have been raised in a home where you dealt with computers from childhood, but the human aspect is still required. So, different levels, you would want the first time to have the human aspect to it. At a high level, where now you are mature enough to handle issues, there's discipline, you can do your own assignments, you know very well the deadlines and so on. You can then deal with artificial intelligence directly. So, but at a tender age, coming up, you expect the human aspect. It won't be a quick fix. It won't be substitution that will happen very soon. It will take long to replace humans. I have to confess on that. It will take very long because no matter you bring those devices that are powered by AI, I indicated, I said, at a young age, you expect that same creativity in that to be observed, to come out. You don't expect people to be speaking in front of computers, cheering them, giving them the thumbs up, they're very well children. You don't expect such. You want humans to talk to them. But later, when they've migrated, they've graduated, they can then speak computers themselves because they've developed enough in terms of their mental capacity. They can now appreciate to stand before a computer and do certain things, or before a robot that can give them feedback. They will appreciate it because they're grown. So that aspect of creativity, as you raised it, one who raised it, is very important. That's why I said it will take many years to replace humans. But the replacement can quickly take place at universities, the way I see it, as opposed to the tender age coming until high school or secondary school. The university level, as we see it, it will definitely happen so expected, where in certain levels we may not need lecturers to stand before students, but we might have to use artificial intelligence to tutor them. For us who are in universities, we see it that tutors are being removed. Secretaries are being removed. We are told in future we will not have secretaries, we will not have administrators. You are employed to do your own things alone because these systems can have aspects that's supposed to be done by a secretary. Why should someone pick calls for you when the same system can give to the caller to say this person is not available? Or the same system can give feedback to the one who is calling to say, wait, this person is online. Or the same system can guide through artificial intelligence feedback to your email. So you can see we are quickly going to replace some other areas of labor. Extinguish. I mean, they will disappear, in other words. They will be there. They will never come back. Because this system is very quick. At a high level, it's much easier to replace than at the basic level. Thank you. Unless there's another question. I don't see other questions.
Okay, Prof. Can you hear me clearly?
Okay, Prof.
Can you hear me clearly, Prof? Okay, the network reception isn't clear, I guess.
The notorious pyramid principle.
It's just
Okay. Although no other question have come from the viewers yet, the much I can see, I would have loved to ask a question. I think the question is quite direct. The question I would have loved to ask is really more on the direct side. It has to do with all of us, whether we are Africans or any other part of the world. As humans, as individuals, as lifelong learners, as students, as educators, how can we harness the power of AI to enhance education without jeopardizing human agency, or let's say while preserving human agency? Because there's some experience I've had with some persons recently is not so encouraging at all. It has gotten to the stage whereby even to engage someone in a simple everyday chat on social media, they will employ the power of AI to respond to you when you ask them questions, simple questions that have to do with your conversation with the person. So how can we harness this tool? While it's not really bad, the scare is losing touch with natural intelligence. So how can we do this while preserving our agency as humans? Okay, it's like okay, Prof is back. Prof, did you get that? It's like Prof is having issues with his internet connection. This is part of what we have to contend with. But notwithstanding, we keep moving. Marcy, are you there? Can you hear us, please?
I can hear you.
Okay. It's like Prof's network is somehow glitchy, right? Okay, why will wait for Prof?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, because this issue of
Oh,
AI usage, in fact, we are having more of it being misused than used.
yeah.
I was giving an instance earlier before the network went bad at Prof's end. Yes, this is what we keep experiencing. For me, I've had this experience a lot of the time. Recently, when I chat with some persons, I noticed that their response is too artificial. Yes, if I should use that. Their response was just too artificial. So that is why I want to ask the question. That's why it begs this question. How can we aim or how can we use it? Okay, how can we harness the power of AI? Because really it's a powerful tool if we know how well to use it. It is a human brain that is behind the advent of AI in the first place. So AI should not necessarily overshadow the human brain. The human brain is meant to use it instead for their own benefits. But now people use AI like it totally controls everything they do. You cannot even hold a decent conversation with someone who is ready to hold his or her own ground in the conversation. So that's why I'm asking, how can we harness the power of AI to enhance education as individuals while preserving human agency, especially here in Africa? Prof is back. Prof, I hope you got the last question I asked. You're welcome back.
Yeah, now I'm hearing. I had to connect my phone, so I was missing a lot. But I'm using the
Okay.
phone now. I'm getting information that you are sharing.
Okay.
Thank you. Is it a question or just a comment?
Well, it's a question. The question was born out of an experience I shared. Yes. The
Oh,
fact that
okay,
people
okay.
use AI to engage in conversations, even when you are chatting with them. You ask someone a simple question and they will resort to AI for the response and come back to you. You will know this is not their language. It is so mechanical, so artificial, as the name implies. So this is why I asked the question, how can we harness the power of AI to enhance education as Africans in particular, as individuals in Africa, while preserving human agency?
Okay, thank you. I think it's very clear now. You are right. You are right. That is the challenge that is happening nowadays. In fact, just to amplify what you said, anything that you touch, for as long as it comes from a human being, is no longer original. So that is what I'm also getting from you. So anything that comes as a response, it's always manipulated by AI, which is correct. Fully. I fully agree with you. In order to deal with such, that's why I said, especially with the education sector, there must be policies that are in place that would govern the operations of AI. Because at universities nowadays, we have systems in place that detects that this assignment was generated through AI. We do that. You can see very well that even you, whether it's a professor or whatsoever who is lecturing the students, you may not be able to produce a document of this kind you should have really taken your time. That already tells you that there's so much of manipulation that takes place behind closed doors. And we penalize for such. Should we pick that it was generated through AI? We would penalize whosoever has done that. So it's very critical. Can you still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's
Yep.
very critical to have systems in place. That's why I say there's need for policies, there's need for regulations in place. Because if you don't do that, there'll be no learning that takes place. Even us who are the lecturers, we will end up not going to the classroom because we can simply instruct these systems to teach on our behalf. And such can happen. So it happens on both sides of the learning side and the teaching side, that both could stay out and just be assisted by this system. Both the one who teaches could teach using the AI systems. The one who responds, who writes, whether it be tests, especially if these are taken, they are produced from home, that you can go home and go and produce an assignment, it's clear. They won't even do it themselves. They'll give you what is generated by AI. So you need to regulate, you need to have policies in place, you need to make sure that the policies are revised and at a short interval. Because if you wait to say we follow the traditional way of revising policies, the 5-year cycles, unfortunately, issues that are taking place within the AI sphere are so quick. There's so much of revolutions taking place in such spheres. So the best way to do it is that you need to have policies that are revised maybe every third year. Every third year you revise to close some loopholes and come up with new regulations that can stifle such misbehaviors, because those are not needed. There will be no learning, there'll be no teaching that will take place if you simply stay and say, because AI has arrived, then let us enjoy it. It's a license fee. Anyone can do what they want with it. Then there will be no society that will benefit from the real teaching. You will have medical doctors who goes to theater, but they don't even know how to operate because these assignments were done on their behalf. They can't even learn the practical side of surgery using AI. People nowadays, they learn how to drive vehicles simply from computers. Someone once shared, and it was very recent, that how they managed to secure a driver's license for a heavy truck. There are heavy trucks that sometimes are called code 14 in terms of licensing. It depends on the country where one comes from. The biggest ones. That person learned from the computer systems. And after that, they were brought to come and drive. They did everything except that they could not go and pass. But what they learned in terms of how they were driving, they brought that into the truck. But you see the dangers of such, that at least this one you can catch him or her, because the practical side of things requires a lot of mechanical driving. But now someone slips in to say they want to go and operate on a person, because they've passed all these assignments, have been done by means of AI. Now they go to surgery, they cannot deal with a patient who is in a critical situation. At times, anyone, even ourselves, you can go and say, your situation requires a painkiller. Anyone can do that. But the critical part of it where you have to do surgery, you will not be able to deliver on that or prescribing medicine. So unfortunately, if we allow your question, if we allow AI not to be governed, because it must be governed, or human conduct with AI must be governed. If we don't do such, we will face serious problems. We will be able to claim to have been trained in doing the following, but only to find we can't deliver on such. Then we have society, you have economies that don't develop, but you have economies that have a lot or littered with a lot of errors in them. That is where such leads to. So I fully concur that we need to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that.
Okay, that's really
Yeah, what's the first one? Seems like there's a question. Is AI with us to replace or complement us in our various careers? It's one of the good questions I did. Maybe just be brief on that one. The essence is not for AI to replace anything, but AI is supposed to be an enabler, okay, to our activities or our actions. But unfortunately, AI can replace us because we are not seizing the opportunity. We can use AI to advance our own causes. It's supposed not to replace us, but it will replace. That is inevitable. It will replace because we are not as well looking at new areas in which we should drive AI, but we want AI to drive everything. So it can replace because we are not seeing it as an enabler. We are seeing it as a replacement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we are now at we reached. Oh, there's another question.
Question. Oh no, this question was there even before. I'm trying to check if there's any other question. I don't see any. Over to the moderator.
Hello, Miss Abili. I think she cannot hear me. Can you hear me, Prof?
I can hear you, madam.
Okay, so Miss Abili, maybe the network challenge. But overall, I think we have come to the end of our program because it was supposed to have ended at 1 hour. But because of delaying to start, then we have come this far.
Okay.
But I think the presentation was very informative. Thank you so much, sir. And the questions as well. I've reaped so much from this. It was insightful. I've gained some knowledge. Yes, and I think all of us who were able to hear the presentation have gained so much from this.
You're welcome. And the slides are available. I think I'll share with you. You can.
oh, that'll be fine. Okay, I'm back. I'm back, everyone. The just a little internet glitch. There's a question that we just discovered from YouTube as well, Prof. I don't know if this particular one has been answered while I was battling my way back.
Which one?
Okay, yeah, there's a question, a new one. With AI automating many aspects of learning, how can educators ensure that students retain retain critical human skills like creativity, empathy, and ethical reasoning?
Yeah, no, I think I attempted it earlier.
Oh, this particular one. Okay, okay. I think that should be when I was offline. I think this was when I was offline. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. All right. So thank you very much, Professor Nyambe. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. It stems from your rich storehouse of experience and knowledge. We are so grateful. Your insights have truly made. And to our viewers who joined us in the course of today's live show, despite the challenges that came from network, and other issues or technical related issues, we say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on this special edition of 3,600 Seconds with Industry Leaders. We hope you have enjoyed the conversation as much as we have. So, as we conclude today, I would like to leave you, our viewers, with a thought-provoking question from all what we've learned from Prof today. And that is, how can we as humans make the most out of artificial intelligence to enhance or improve our learning experience without losing touch with human natural intelligence? Give this a thought so we don't lose what is the most important thing. Well, viewers, do not forget to follow us on LinkedIn. Prof is on LinkedIn. You do well to connect with him. If you have other questions you wish to reach out to him on, please do so. You can connect with Prof on LinkedIn. You can find him there, Professor Jacob M. Nyambe. You can also connect with Marcia Bata. She is also on LinkedIn. And Victory Omovra is on LinkedIn. And of course, yours insightfully is also on LinkedIn. So do well to connect with all of us and watch out for the space for more weekly insightful conversations with other industry leaders. Well, until next time, we urge you to stay curious, keep on learning, and let us continue to shape the future of education together. One more time, I say thank you all for streaming in. We hope to see you next time. Have a nice time, have a wonderful time, and bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and bye-bye. Bye, even to the listeners. Thank you, bye-bye. In Lesotho.
Bye.
Engage. Thank you.